How's it going? Pop up in the chat, say hello. What up, what up, what up? It's great to be back. Damn. I almost forgot how to live stream. And there's a bunch of other people live streaming at this point, so I'm probably not gonna get a bunch of viewers. Or any at all, I guess. Gonna have to wait for Prime to end. Who else is live right now? Primogen's live, Spiro is live, Griffin is live. Yeah, I mean that in itself is very, very competitive. So it's a very competitive time, I guess. But if you're here, pop up in the chat, say hi, say something, so I know you're real and not a bot. I'm also streaming on Twitter now, so there's probably gonna be a bunch of bots in here. I'm sorry, x.com. I said Twitter, my bad. Should not have said Twitter. Alright. It's time for some work. Let me just paint here. Alright. I should find a way to let me close the player. I have this chat up here. How do I... Okay, there we go. That doesn't help much. Can I have all three chats on screen? Nah, it's fine. I'll just switch between them. Or I can probably do something like this. Make this smaller. Make this smaller. And can take the space in between. There we go. Now I have all three chats on my screen. Hope my audio is fine. Hope the music is not overpowering the audio. Alright, let me switch to this view. So I was trying to figure out how well ChatGPT can help me coming up with the conference talk. Here's the idea for it. It's titled Streams Not Waterfalls, Improving Page Load and Core Web Vitals. This is the talk that I'm giving at Star Trek. So scrolling down, you'll see my name. I'm probably the only person not looking at the camera directly. Damn. Everyone has such a nice headshot, and I just have this old ass photo. I should get that fixed. Here we go. Streams, not waterfalls, improving page load and core web vitals. Single page apps unlock instant user interactions and highly dynamic user experiences. But as applications get more complex, the price is paid in terms of performance. We either end up with cascading client-server fetches for code and data, or with obscenely large JavaScript bundles to bring in caching solutions. This talk will explore how streaming architecture is helping applications load much faster by eliminating client-server waterfalls, significantly improving core web vitals and user experience, and how React is bringing the benefits of streaming to its declarative component model. Okay. So let me pull up my Notion here on the side. Is this session you're presenting at a conference? Correct. This is the session I'm presenting here at Star Trek. Let me post this in the chat. Gonna find new, let's call it Streams of Waterfalls. Okay. And here's the Notion page. Okay. Notion has its own AI thing, but I'm paying for ChatGPT, so why not? Okay. So let's distill some core points here. Let me copy all of this abstract here, and then we can kind of try to itemize it. So first point, a single page apps unlock instant user interactions and highly dynamic experiences. Let's make this a bullet. Let's make all of these bullets. And as applications get more complex, price is paid in terms of performance. How is that? We either end up with cascading client-server waterfalls, or with obscenely large JavaScript bundles to bring in caching solutions. This talk explores streaming architecture. Applications load much faster by eliminating client-server waterfalls, significantly improving load much faster by eliminating client-server waterfalls, significantly improving core web vitals and user experience, and how React is bringing benefits of streaming to its declarative component model. So I think this kind of nicely outlines what the talk should be. Shreyas, what's up? Thanks for joining. Just started on this. Damn, the coffee's a little too bitter. Actually, is it bitter or no? It's bitter, yeah. I think I ground a bit too fine. Yeah. 3:30, I have to go to sleep. Yeah, just go to sleep. It's fine. Go to sleep. You can watch my streams when I do like late night streams. Okay, so let's try to maybe distill this down a bit more. Single page apps unlock instant user interactions and highly dynamic user experiences. So we start with the premise that we like single page applications because they are great for user experience. But as applications get more complex, performance turns out to be not that great. And why is that? Because we end up with cascading waterfalls, or we have huge JavaScript bundles, or even worse, a weird combination of both. So premise, problem, solution, solution, or technical solution, and more, I guess, what we can do about it. How do I rephrase this? Do I need to rephrase this, or I think this gets the point across? Maybe I need to rephrase this one. Maybe just rewrite this. Let's take this and rewrite. Let's see. Let's make this. Let's call this what? Abstract broken down into points. I don't need to do this. Okay. So SPA's good for UX is the premise. Problem, complex SPAs bad for performance. Number one, cascading waterfalls. Cascading client-server waterfalls. We want to emphasize that we're talking about client-server waterfalls. What's the concept of this talk? Check out the link that I sent above, the Star Trek link. I can send it again, this one right here. This should get the point across. Cascading client, or you can just look at this. This is basically trying to convey the point of the talk. Number two is large JavaScript bundles. Streaming solution, streaming architecture faster loads, or let's do this, eliminate client server waterfalls, faster loads leading to better core web vitals. Oh, the other way around, core web vitals. Check it out. I'll check it out late. Gotta go. Bye. Thank you for stopping by. You know what? I should replace this with this, and this with this, and this with this. Cool. I know you guys probably have no idea what I just did there. I just rearranged my the three chats a little bit. Faster loads, better core web vitals, and I think that's pretty much it. React suspense plus RSC to get streaming for streaming. Still need this is the kind of I think getting from here to here is like I have a path for that in my head, but I still have to figure out how to get from here to here, because after talking about okay, streaming architecture is the solution, we also have to talk about implementing streaming in applications, because the whole point is that implementing basically implementing out of order streaming is a hard problem. It is a problem that has been unsolved for many years, and up until recently, streaming is not the same thing as RSC. I know. Hey, I'm giving this talk to like a mainstream development audience, not to like a very front-end specific conference. So I'm gonna have to like tell some white lies, I guess. Good to see you back on stream. Thank you for stopping by, first time chatter, Hernan YVB. You're a first time chatter, so you've been on the stream before, but you've never chatted. Or you have seen me live on somewhere else, I guess. Yeah, I know streaming is not the same thing as RSCs, but to kind of like a mainstream audience, really I can only talk about Next.js and Remix. Cannot really talk about much other things. They're not junior developers. Oh, on YouTube. Okay, that makes sense. They're not junior developers. If anything, they're probably more senior developers than most, more senior than like most people you'll meet in the front end circles. And the thing is that I can really only talk about things like React and maybe Angular and Vue at this conference. And I'm pretty sure that Nuxt doesn't support streaming yet, like out of order streaming. So I don't think I can even bring up Vue. Let me check. Is Nuxt streaming? Does Nuxt allow streaming at all? Doesn't look like it. Hybrid rendering, CDN edge servers, universal rendering. Can I find stream anywhere? No. So Nuxt does not allow streaming. Angular does. Angular.dev. Oh, there we go. It's literally that's literally the like the top result in my browser history. Deferrable views. Yeah, and like deferrable views, especially if later they combine it with Wiz, that's gonna be like their streaming resumability solution that they come up with. But I think for now, defer is what they're gonna use for streaming and maybe even SSR streaming if they get there. But this is also like a very new thing that I cannot fully talk about, especially if I don't have a lot of experience with this, which means, and obviously like I can kind of bring up SvelteKit and Solid Start, but this is heavily going to be focused on React and Next.js and server components. and maybe a little bit of Remix. Like I'll show how it's done in Remix maybe, most likely, or I'll probably just mention that, hey, you can also do this in Remix. Go check out the docs if you want to, or if you're using Remix, which I am going to be using Remix in my new job, so I'm gonna have to do that anyways. But yeah. Yeah. So implementing streaming in applications. Maybe I can talk about. Ryan wrote a cool article. Oh, he did? Wait, when was this? When did this happen? Should we like delay the... You know what? I'm gonna delay the conference talk thing, and I'm gonna react to this article, and we can post this on the YouTube. It's 2021. Yeah. Oh, it is? Oh, never mind then. That's a while ago. Is that a really good resource to understand streaming architecture RSC better? That's a good question. I don't know if there are really good blog posts about it. I know there's a few videos. Let's see. I mean, if it's a 2021 article, then I don't think I'm going to get anything new here. Yeah, like it still talks about use effect React query, SWR. Yeah. I mean, maybe this one. I don't know. I've like all my knowledge about streaming and things like that kind of come from like very disconnected resources everywhere else. I'm hoping that this conference talk that I come up with, and maybe I can also write a blog post around it, that kind of becomes the resource to understand streaming architecture that at least I can recommend. Like the question that you just asked, Amor, that's exactly what I'm trying to design here. The resource, like a resource to understand streaming architecture and RSCs. And I believe this is like a 50-minute talk. Let's see, 8:30 a.m., 9:45. Yeah, so these are like 55-minute talks. So I'm gonna have a bunch of time to go over everything. These are not the usual like 20-minute talks that you might find at more friend-oriented concepts. It's a really cool topic and exciting, yeah. And I don't think this kind of an audience is really exposed to these topics. Like I don't know if a lot of these, like if you look through the the talks here, lessons from a light bulb. Like there's not a lot of front end. Like there's AI, there's web components, there's a leadership thing, Android app performance, light on debugging. It's given by Alex, so it's probably a front end talk. He organizes Vue.js stuff, but it's like it's a very general purpose, like debugging, I guess. UX specialist, API, productive get-together, so meetings. So it's like there's not a lot of full stack or there's 2 talks on web components. Holy shit. How are there 2 talks on web components? Design system with web. Wait, are there more? Yeah, okay, there's just 2. Okay, thank you. Azure infrastructure as code. Understanding CPU things, modular monoliths. So this is the kind of it's a very different circles from what you'll see in streaming and RSC is related, but also different things. Yeah, that's kind of the thing is like the kind of audience that I'm going to be giving this talk to. They're probably going to be the most familiar with React, Vue, and Angular. And Vue/Nuxt doesn't quite support streaming. And Angular, it's very new and I don't know much about it. So it really just comes down to explaining streaming with React. And like mostly Next.js. I can talk about Remix maybe, but I don't know what the future of streaming APIs and Remix is going to look like, especially with the addition of server components and like better integration into React 18/19. So yeah, Remix showed that. Yeah, so Remix streaming APIs are probably going to change a lot, so I don't want to rely on that too much. So it really just comes down to server components. Session recorded, yes. If you go to YouTube, look up Stir Trek, you should be able to find a bunch of their stuff. Yeah, all the talks they record, and I believe live stream. I don't know. I don't know if they live stream, but they record and put all the talks on YouTube. This is like one of those heavily underrated channels. Solid have an RSC plan? Good question. Early cutting edge, JSX streaming and Bun, but since Bun can legit parse JSX out of the box. Bun can parse JSX out of the box. Can you tell Bun like what transform to use, like what to target? Because like, for example, React and Solid.js both use JSX but have very different like outputs. Can you configure that in Bun? I'm guessing you can. But yeah, so this is kind of the breakdown. Thanks for joining, Ryan, honestly. So premise is that SPAs are good because they're good for interactive and dynamic UX. But as apps get more complex, you either have waterfalls or you have large JavaScript bundles. And the quote-unquote solution, or one of the solutions, is streaming architecture to eliminate waterfalls and improve core web vitals. And the next big hurdle, for me at least, is how do I get from this to this? Again, I mostly explained it as that React and RSCs are kind of the biggest emphasis point of this talk because everything else is kind of like niche compared to React. Sort of. I would love to give this talk on Solid Start, but like this is a kind of a mainstream conference where they're not gonna know anything that I'm talking about if I bring up Solid.js, unfortunately. So yeah, it's gonna be like, okay, here's streaming, here's how streaming helps, and here's how you can do streaming with RSCs. Because I'm probably gonna also have like a bunch of SPA client only audience, people who are probably not using stuff like Next.js or Remix or SvelteKit. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna be aware of it. Yeah. I don't know if I want to. Okay, implementing streaming applications. I guess why streaming is hard. This is it's also like, again, it's a 50-minute talk, so I can go over a lot of topics. Benefits of streaming generically. Okay. Server rendering in JavaScript, optimizing performance. Is this optimizing for size, optimizing performance? Okay. I think all three of these are going to be very interesting. Or like very helpful for me as I design this. Although, are the benefits of streaming like, yeah, unfortunately, if I'm using like React and server components as my kind of as my mascot of here's how to use streaming to help your applications, I'm kind of stuck with like also explaining server rendering. But like obviously with things like Remix and SvelteKit and Solid Start, like so you don't need to server render to get the benefits of streaming, right? Not happy with either? Oh, okay. RSC are happy with the prototype, right? Like, do you have to turn on SSR to get streaming? You just need a JavaScript server, right? It doesn't necessarily need to render anything. It just needs to stream the data to a client that can render everything. Like that's what I know. Remix, like by you cannot really turn off SSR. I mean, Remix has spa mode. Does anyone know if you can still do like deferred and things like that with the Remix spa mode? I'm actually not sure. Remix spa mode. Can you defer? No. Articles focus streaming HTML like pages. Okay. Oh, right. Okay. So is this like in order stream, or like I'm seeing you using suspense? Progressive rendering. Like this, I believe. I don't know if this is out of order. Right. Okay. So I guess how much do I talk about streaming just the data versus streaming HTML partials / server components? Like, which one? I'm guessing the leap from a client-only spa, like a developer that only does client-only spas, to server components is a pretty big leap. So maybe there's like a spectrum that I can go through. So like traditional spa or CSR / spa. You know what? I'm still not. I know, Ryan, you have like a different. You have like slight difference between these two terms. I'm still not fully sure, but I'm hoping the word traditional here conveys the point of what it's meant to be. SSR app, SSR spa, and then let's say server components. Where does streaming data go? Like, I feel like there's an alternative number 2 here where you only stream the data. Like, you have a normal app and then you just have a JavaScript server so that you can stream some data, and then you also like start to render on the server and you get to server components. And the other path is like you just start rendering on the server first and then you start streaming it. So I feel like there's two, like you diverge from the traditional the traditional app development model into either streaming or either rendering on the server, but then you converge again at server components. What about discussing streaming without RSCs than with RSCs? Yeah, I am. That's what I'm thinking right now. But that's the exactly what Ryan said. Not many libraries or frameworks stream data. Like Remix does, but that's potentially going to change. SvelteKit does, because I know SvelteKit you can just, on specific pages, you can turn off SSR, but the loaders and actions still work. So you can still, like you can probably still have CSR, but change your, like still keep the loaders that stream in data separately. And obviously with solid start, you can turn off SSR. Yeah, it's tough. I would love to go this route, no pun intended, where we first talk about just streaming data. Important to mention. I also like, I was also thinking of ways where like we talk about GraphQL here first, like kind of go the Dan Abramov /React route where, hey, I mean, it's the way that they arrived at server components. I can just go through the same route that, hey, you can eliminate a lot of waterfalls if you use Relay, but then you have large JavaScript bundles. Like that's basically what I'm going to be doing here anyways, that, hey, you're going to have waterfalls, but you can use something like Relay to eliminate them, but then you have large JavaScript bundles. So how do we solve both of these problems? And unfortunately, the only answer that really I can talk about there of solving both of these problems is RSCs. Now you can debate whether RSCs help large JavaScript bundles, but the point is that that's really the only like viable mass adoption or like, I guess, mainstream quote unquote solution that I can talk about. Yeah, it's tough to talk about. Streaming is in a really awkward space. Like I wish more people were just streaming data instead of without using GraphQL. Okay, cool. So until then, what else did I have here? Why is streaming hard? Why did it take so much time for frameworks to figure out of-order streaming, except for Marco? I don't know if Ryan's still here. Maybe you can answer that. Like, there was like this huge chunk of time where no one except Marco had out-of-order streaming, and like suddenly everyone has it. Is it because like no one was trying to put together a JavaScript framework or a JavaScript server and a client together and have them work together. Only focus streaming initial page load, HTML. Like, yes, the fetching still works, but they weren't really streaming data responses. No one cared. No one cared, okay. So it's not like streaming is hard. It's like, it's not. Just that no one cared. Okay. So it's not really that hard. Got it. Marco mentioned, yes. This is not a Ryan Carniato stream, so we can talk about Marco. Ryan's the only one who is allowed to not talk, who's not allowed to talk about Marco until it's shipped. Innovation eBay Inc. Oh, eBay has a engineering blog. Nice. Yeah, I've heard about this one. Rediscovering progressive HTML rendering. Yeah, I've seen this blog post. I haven't read the whole thing, but yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm gonna give this a read at some point. I guess I can just go over with the titles. Background, okay. Without progressive HTML rendering, okay, cool. Fleshing the head early, okay, so that you can preload stuff. Multiple flashes, okay. In order fleshing of async fragments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess you have them in order in the HTML, but then you use CSS to put them in the correct layout. And then out of order fleshing of async fragments, okay. Yeah, so it was there, it's just that no one cared enough, and I guess no one really had that technology, like meta framework set up to be able to do it correctly. I think streaming in the 2000s PHP, it's funny that we're discovering it now. I mean, I wouldn't say we're discovering it, it's more that we are, like, obviously streaming has been there forever, but again, the point here is that what React did is bringing the benefits of streaming to its declarative component model. That's kind of the idea. Like, I'm guessing that when they came up with the idea of, or when they envisioned, the React core team that is, when the React core team envisioned stuff like suspense and concurrent rendering, they were thinking of, at that point, like they were thinking of like, okay, we're gonna have a server and a client, and the server is gonna be sending async fragments here and there, asynchronous or HTML fragments asynchronously, and we're gonna want to put them in our model, right? Like this, or is it async fragments? Like that. That's basically what suspense or async components is. It's just that no one had the idea of an async component other than I guess Marco and React. So it was like, how do you combine the declarative component model with the with streaming? Like, until they came out with server components and like the streaming kind of architecture, no one really thought that this is what suspense is going to lead to. Like, it was all it's gonna help data fetching, it's gonna eliminate waterfalls, it's gonna make our apps faster, time slicing. Like, that's what everyone was talking about, or showing loading spinners. That's what everyone was talking about. No one was talking about out of order streaming. Some people may have known, right? Yeah, but it was never like conveyed that, hey, we're gonna build a streaming model on top, or we're gonna build this on top of HTTP streaming. Okay, anyways, so where am I at? Implementing streaming in applications. I guess I don't have this section. I can just go straight to this one. So, okay, we want streaming. We can talk about, I guess this section becomes streaming. So how do you implement streaming? So here's where I guess talk about need control over both server and client. So you need the server and client to kind of coordinate with each other. You need a serializer and deserializer. that know that they each other exist, they speak the same language, so that you can build like that, either the like streaming promises or streaming JSX. And so they were thinking this pretty early. Yeah, I know the core team knew about this all along. I'm saying that outside of the core team, outside of the people working on it directly, like it was all time slicing and loading spinners and waterfalls and whatnot. You can have streaming without async components. You can have async components without streaming. Joel, what's up? You're gonna have to elaborate a bit more on that, Parasocial. Async components without streaming. Then what's the point of async components? I mean, I get that the DX of like async and await, so that like it's a nice DX to have async await components, but I guess like they all do that. And streaming without async, like I know you can have streaming without async components. That's not the point. The point is that async components, see, streaming is an underlying technology, and async components are like a DX on top, like this technology wrapped around a better developer experience that can scale across teams. So it's like if I know you watched my Jamstack video. In that video, I mentioned like how lambdas or like functions, serverless functions, were a piece of technology that we were trying to discover use cases for, and then things like serverless backends or Jamstack, these were architectures or DX solutions built on top of a piece of technology. So that's how I think about stuff. Like I think about some tool, some technology, some technical capability that's underlying, and then on top of that, a programming model or an architecture that is built on top of that capability, that exposes that capability in a much more familiar format that's maybe that's specific to one use case. So there's two layers to that. There's streaming, that's the capability, and there's async components that's on top of it. Which is an abstraction that gives you access to that technology, to that capability, in a much nicer kind of programming model. Obviously, you can have others like async components is one. Streaming promises inside promises, that's another one. So these are like two, I guess, kind of competing, not necessarily two competing programming models that both use the same underlying technology, that's HTTP streaming. Does that kind of make sense? Next.js can use async components without streaming. Yeah, I know it can, but without streaming, all async components offer is nice DX, like or a nice authoring DX. Other than that, it doesn't really do much. I know they can do that. The point is that obviously async components can do a lot. Async component detail isn't very important. Okay, I'm listening. I'll get some water or something to drink in a second. They could have used use. Right, yeah. I mean, so in my head, an async server component and a client component that uses use, I'm calling both of them async components. Like I don't necessarily mean async components as a JavaScript function that's been marked as async await or something that returns a promise. A normal React component or a client React component that uses the use hook, that's still an async component in my head. That's how I think of it. Like a component that somehow depends on a promise, that's an async component. Ryan, you've taught me to think mechanically, not syntactically. This is your result. Async components serializing RSC over the wire and streaming. Together get the RSC streamed over the wire generated by async components. Yeah, and that's the reason why I don't want to like make the jump from here, from here to server components, because there's like a whole lot to explain about what server components are before I can get to streaming. Which is why I was also hoping that there's kind of a middle ground, something like this. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I can show. So Next.js was released. Next.js app router release. When was this? This was 13.4 in May, right? When did Remix add deferred? Just skip streaming? Do you see the title of the talk? The whole talk is about streaming. I guess maybe that was a joke and I was too dumb to get it. This whole talk is about streaming. When did Remix add defer? April 22. Okay, so like a whole year before App Router was released. Streaming guide. Are there any dates? Come on, give me dates. No dates. Okay. So like a whole year. And Solid Start also had. It was spring. Okay. Wait, April 23. April 23 is like after, much after the App Router beta release. I'm guessing that Remix had defer before App Router or before Next.js did. Is that not a correct assumption? Was Remix much later to streaming? Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna run it to pipeable stream. Yeah, I mean that's a React feature. It's not a Remix feature, it's a React feature. No, I'm talking about Remix's streaming, so defer and awaited components. So the defer and awaited is what they have. That's the Remix feature. That's what they're using currently, like without server components. I guess here I can talk about streaming just data. So I can bring up things like Remix, SvelteKit, and Solid Start. So I can bring up, hey, these are meta frameworks that can stream just the data. And I can talk about React streaming SSR. I believe Next.js Pages Router still has... I think Pages Router supported streaming SSR before App Router was out, or I mean definitely does right now. You can use, I believe you can use things like use suspense query or just a use hook and it will stream SSR. So I think this might be a good jumping point to RSCs. React server components. So I think I can take this path to kind of better get to server components. Like, hey, let's stream just data, then let's also render on the server, then let's skip hydration. And see, let's skip hydration and serialize stuff. And each of these kind of differ was introduced in Jan 19, 2023. Okay. Thank you very much for finding that, Amor. Right. You talked about it May 22. Oh, is that yeah. Yeah, exactly. I was actually watching this talk, remixing React Router, in like preparation for this one. That talk is essentially like I'm basically redoing kind of a Ryan's remixing React router talk, but like a lot more Next.js and non-remix and non-React frameworks. Not a lot more, but like a little bit. Like his was completely focused around remix and React router. I guess he has streaming like at the last 20-30% of the talk. Okay. I think I can build demos for all of these. Remember, because streaming was pointless Jan 22 and we got it. Wait, Ryan Florence said streaming was pointless? Oh no. Oh no. I've only like I wasn't really around on like Twitter and modern web dev circles until like mid to late 2022. So I've definitely heard a lot about the behavior of the remix people online. Yeah, exactly. Find those posts he deleted. I've heard a lot about like how much he like shit talks and then deletes posts, but I've only like personally like firsthand witnessed maybe a couple of those instances. Like the Solid Start docs was pretty much the first time I like it was my very first-hand experience of their behavior online, of like making a bunch of posts and then deleting them. That was fun. Okay, so I think I have a good kind of outline, a decent outline here, at least as a starting point. Let's make this. Can I make this? Okay. Oops. Okay. Being rude and edgy is so cool. True. Kind of planned me and Theo and we asked him if Remix is going to support streaming because I already had it remixed. Fun times. Okay, so let's go over this one more time. Spas good for UX. That's the premise. Problem: spas as they get complex, they get bad for performance. Why? Well, you might have cascading client-server waterfalls, or you might have large JavaScript bundles, or you may have unscalable UX. So this is where you try to kind of manually hoist all the data fetching, which is obviously like just, so option one is like, yeah, like let's not do anything, let's let them waterfall. Option two is let's bring in relay, and option three is almost like let's do what Remix is doing, but manually, I guess. Don't consider Remix as streaming just data. If anything, they stream HTML. Huh. They stream HTML. If I know they stream HTML, but fuck. Like like in Solid Start, if you turn off SSR, if you do SSR false, what are you streaming then? Cooling is not working.
It's not working.
Yeah, I don't know why. Suck. Streaming responses in Start was something we have introduced more recently. Brought server into server functions, quick has streaming data stuff too. Okay. So I guess here I'm stuck with like GraphQL. Am I stuck with GraphQL for like streaming just data? And we have like all the meta frameworks here. Damn. Seeing the bat chest emote for the first time in my chat. That's fun. I guess the idea of like streaming just data as Remix will get solid start is also in the more in the lines of like when you're writing your code, or the DX of streaming is that you're streaming data. Like with both of these, you're wrapping promises inside promises inside promises. And in solid start, you have your resources, right? So yeah, technically they're streaming HTML, but like the DX is that you're streaming data. RSC's changed that with but I guess then this is also with the use hook, you're also just doing that. Does Azure support streaming? In some way. I think Ben has some interesting demo of out of order streaming. Like Remix and SwillKit and Classic Start, we had those like route data fetching endpoints, and but they just acted like API endpoints in the client after the fact. Right, but they acted like API endpoints, but they still stream it. Like if you client navigate to a different page, they are going to stream the data responses, right? Instead of, like, they're not going to SSR, but they're still going to stream on client navigation. Streaming loaders, who's that a question for? But yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at, is that the data loader streaming is what I was kind of pointing at here. Response is hitting a JSON API. Yeah, that's fine. Response is like hitting a JSON API. Okay. Oh, the data itself comes as a single non-streamed blob. Got it. Okay. I was under the impression that, like, if you go to a new route, which has, let's say, 3 different resources, you're gonna get like an HTTP stream with 3 different JSON blobs for each resource. Or in Remix, if you have 3 different promises. Oh, it's 3 different requests. Oh, right, I forgot about that. Right, because you're not SSRing anymore, so you don't have that. That's fair. So I guess streaming really only makes sense for these frameworks. It's really only the initial load, and after that they just try to parallelize stuff instead of streaming. Streaming SSR, I guess, then also goes into that category. Pages router. Because you can have a bunch of different use hooks, but it's just going to make, because it's client rendering, it's just going to have different API calls. With RSCs, they can stream. Yeah. So streaming on client navigations is really like server components are really the only way that you stream on client navigations. What about Remix though? Because Remix has server functions. Okay, yeah, so RSCs and server functions. But with server functions, you still have to, like, it still becomes you have to return a promise inside a promise, or like a JavaScript primitive, right? Like if you have 3 components that each have 3 different that all 3 like fetch different data, you still make 3 different API requests. But with server components, it's all one API request and the 3 the 3 responses get streamed in. That's kind of what I was getting at. Like, yeah. Can stream client bundle on client navigation and Remix. Control both sides to do streaming APIs like with server functions. What about if I go to defer? I feel like this should also stream on a client navigation. Like when you navigate to a different page on the client, it runs the loader, or it makes an API request to the server, which runs the loader, which would initiate this fetch, wait for it, and then return this. It would have the product, and it would have a promise for this. And then in here, let's see, maybe defer this, right? And then they pass the promise to the await component, right? Because reviews, or here product would be data, but reviews would be a promise of data. So then you would have to pass it into awaited. Where am I in there? Streaming, okay. Where's the docs and defer? Need to double check this. Yeah, I think that should be the case, pretty sure. Oh, let me guess, awaited, or await. Okay. Await results and promise. Yeah, and this will hit the suspense boundary. Yeah, this really only makes sense if they also streamed on client navigations. They could make this work either way. They built the feature for HTML initial load streaming. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was getting at with the streaming data thing, is that if you have hoisted data fetching like Remix does, where you put a promise inside a promise, and I'm pretty sure SvelteKit will do the same thing. SvelteKit defer, or not defer.run, SvelteKit streaming snapshots, other features. Since SvelteKit 1.0, okay, never mind, I need to look at the docs. This is Svelte docs, this is not SvelteKit docs. There we go, docs, and search for stream API, streaming with promises, there we go. When using server load, promises will be streamed to the browser as they resolve. Yeah. So same thing here. Even on the client navigation or client rendering, if you go to this page, if you go to a blog page, it's going to give you the post immediately and then a promise for the comments. And here you can await data.comments. I mean, this will do the same, and this will do it for SSR, obviously, but then for CSR, it'll stream again. Streaming snapshots, SvelteKit. I'm not on the same page. Oh yeah, I mean, this is the page that I originally opened. Yeah, when navigating between pages, it doesn't specify SSR. I mean, navigating, that means CSR. Yeah. Yeah, all of them have. I'm pretty sure Next app router was the last one to have streaming. Like pretty much everyone had streaming before app router, or before Next.js did, in a sense. Unless like you count the streaming SSR with pages router. I don't even know when they added that. I thought you guys were first. I thought Solid Start was the... oh no, you were first at streaming, supporting streaming on Vercel. Streaming HTML, right, yeah. That's why it hurts when people conflate streaming with an RSC. I know, I just told you what I mean. There's two ways today to do streaming. you either do RSCs or you put promise inside promise inside promise, or like async components or nested promises. Those are the two programming models in my head that make it really easy to do streaming. I think I'm going to talk about the second one, promise inside promises, and then I'm going to talk about like async partial server components, that kind of stuff. And again, I'm talking more in terms of the DX. What actually happens under the hood is kind of like implementation detail, or I guess not implementation detail. What do I want to call it? Like it's left up to the runtime, or like what happens. Like for initial load, it will stream HTML, but for client navigation, it will stream the data. So, and I think that's going to be more like talking without SSR is going to be a better, probably like more relatable point, a more relatable avenue for pure SPA devs. Your data was all independent. Yeah, exactly. So because you have like resources independent and especially like non-blocking primitives, you don't necessarily need to stream. And because your I guess your load, yeah, because your preload functions were just that. Here's where you I don't know, I guess. I know I didn't really use the, like I used the first beta solid start a little bit. I didn't use it too much. I didn't know much about streaming at that point. Right, yeah, you don't want to be as slow as the slowest. Yeah, that's going to be an important point here. And that's why you need or this combined with the fact that you want to load on I guess that's why there were two different paths to get to streaming. There was the path that React took, and then there was a path that Remix took. Like they both end up at server components, but React first went to Relay because they wanted to because they already had a streaming solution. They just wanted to reduce the JavaScript bundles. Remix went the other route where they started server rendering, but then they had to block everything, so they intercepted stream. They had streaming there so that they can just send a response without having to be as slow as the slowest. So both of them kind of got there, like it's, I guess, a convergent evolution into streaming server components. So path that Marco took and the path that Astro took. Astro doesn't have streaming. Marco took, yeah, Marco just took the path of having to build an extremely complicated website and having a bunch of very talented engineers to do it. That's not a path that I can recommend to most companies, because that's how you get microservices hell. Yeah. So yeah, I think this is a good path to get there. You first need control over both server and client. You start streaming just data by putting promises inside promises, or the use hook, I guess. And then you start rendering on the server to get server components, or let's call it async partials. And I'm gonna bring up the blog post here. Bookmark. What else? Server rendering and JavaScript optimizing performance. Is this fetch as you render? Let's see, what do you have here? Lazy load, fetch profile. Okay, fetch as you render. Streaming is progressive rendering. Render to node streams. This is Marco, streaming performance. Okay. As of writing this, well, Marco and Solid, only Marco and Solid have this feature. So yeah, there was a time. Okay, you just said you were the last. Now here you're saying you were basically the first one. Did I? Okay, you said you were the last at streaming HTML. Okay, got it. So I'm gonna put this here. Oh wait, first to HTML streaming. Okay, sure. Streaming snapshots. And okay, this one. I'm gonna add this one. And await in remix. Yeah, other than Marco. Right, yeah. We don't talk about Marco much. Like most of the community, we ignore Marco. Okay. So we need control over both server and client because we want to be able to serialize and deserialize whatever we want. First example, promises inside promises. And the second one is async partials. Or async fragments, let's call it. Fragments, partials, whatever. And here I can bring up Marco. I should probably bring up Marco first because it was definitely first there, but I cannot spend too much time on this. Okay. Oh wait, this is unscalable DX, not UX. Right. I'm feeling good about this so far. Any idea when Remix is releasing RSC? No idea at all. I almost feel like they're... Yeah, I don't know. Remix working with Shopify, or Remix working under Shopify is kind of, I don't know, awkward to think about because Shopify was heavily invested in RSCs. Then for some mysterious reason, they just said no to RSCs. So I feel like whatever reason, whatever led to Shopify / Hydrogen going away from RSCs is probably going to like impact Remix's adoption of RSCs as well to some. I could be like completely wrong about this, but I feel like whatever is the like internal secret that makes it anti-RSC is going to leak into Remix. And on top of that, like Ryan Florence just wants to take his very sweet time with RSCs. He wants Next.js to like to be the guinea pig for as long as possible before figuring out the correct way to do it. Also, Remix is really focused on making sure that the Create React app crowd comes along with him. So that's going to be like a big consideration into his implementation. You mean it wasn't stable? Yeah. I think someone just asked in that comment. I think someone just asked that in the comments on the RFC. Someone asked what? Oh, okay. Did Shopify abandon Rails? I'm pretty sure it didn't. I mean, it probably did at some point, but I'm guessing a lot of its internal infrastructure is still built in Rails. But they were not like that. Their own internal infrastructure is not what they were considering for RSCs. It was mostly their Hydrogen framework, which they like recommend developers to build their own e-commerce sites on top of Shopify. Shopify bit RSC and got burned on the initial adoption. I don't know. Is that the only reason? Is that really it? That it like it wasn't stable? I thought the whole point of Hydrogen adopting, like, I feel like they knew what they signed up for. Like, they were probably the first adopters of RSCs. So it's not like you ask for something and when you get it, you're like, no, I don't want it. That feels like a weird reason for them to ditch RSCs. Like when you're going that early into something that's that like different from everything that's around, you should know that that's what's gonna happen. So much time and money into it. Reacting learned a bunch about making better API and changed it. Yeah, I mean, sure, of course. Like when someone invests a bunch of time and money into something, and you have a bunch of talented people working on it, something's good is gonna come out of it. But it's like, yeah, you were a alpha beta tester, and then like you adopted something unstable, knowing that it was unstable, and then you didn't like it because it was unstable. I don't know, that feels weird to me. Hopefully I'm gonna meet Ryan tomorrow or day after tomorrow. I'm gonna ask him. I don't think he's gonna tell me, but let's see. Okay, so spas are good, complex spas are bad. Streaming makes complex spas better. Then abandoned is going to do it later. Yeah, I mean through remix. Technically remix is going to do it later, which means hydrogen is automatically going to do it later. But then how do you implement? You need control on both sides. Here's some examples of frameworks that stream just the data. Or if you turn on SSR, they also stream HTML. And here's someone streaming async fragments. I really wish there were better examples of like streaming just data that's not GraphQL, but I guess I can make this like streaming just data GraphQL, and then streaming data and HTML, streaming HTML and data. So these frameworks, they are SSR, so they're going to stream HTML as well, but then they're going to stream. Matt, how's it going? RSC had some early changes that meant hydrogen had to be rewritten, but chose instead of hydrogen v2 to be built on top of remix. Remix has good options. Shopify actively working on getting RSC working in remix. Shopify also has significant investments. I mean, sure. I mean, first of all, thank you very much for showing up, and thank you very much for the response, thoughtfully written response. What I'm saying is that, yeah, I know all of like everything that you told me. I know that. I'm asking like the very first sentence. Hydrogen had to be rewritten, but chose instead for hydrogen v2 to be built on top of remix. That's the decision that I was just more curious about. That why did they build on top? Why did they choose to build on top of remix instead of something server components based? I mean, I guess it's, I don't know, I can't really come up with much. Like, it's less work, I guess, because remix is more stable. Server components require, I guess, way too much work. They didn't want to do all that work. I was around for that part. Yeah, that's another story beyond what I said. Okay, but thanks a lot for both for showing up and for the response. I'd be interested to know too. Oh no. Oh no. If the devrel at React says I would also be interested in knowing, I have no hope of finding out this answer. If you don't know the answer, I have absolutely no hope of finding out the answer to this. Oh my god. I'm going to not that way. Resources. Okay, I guess I need to go back a bit more. Resources. Put them on here. Resources. For some reason Next had to build with new router. I guess it was you're building on top of existing router. Correct. Building on top of an existing router was / is effectively impossible. Like the way server components work, you really have to re-architect how you're doing routing to support server components. And like if they build on top of the existing router, like, I don't think you can really build on top of an existing router. You have to really change the entire architecture. Yeah, and if they change the existing router, that would just be a lot of breaking changes. So building a new router and continuing to maintain the old one and providing a migration strategy, somehow that's still easier. Like think about that. That's a lot of work for framework authors to not only build a whole new framework, but then support both frameworks working together, continue to maintain the old framework, and provide like incremental adoption from the old to the new. That's almost double the work of just changing the framework. So clearly, yeah, building on top of the existing router was just that much more more than that. I always kind of like chuckle somewhat at people who say that Next.js is like kind of controlling React, or Next.js is in such an advantageous position. Like, no, Next.js has like 3 times more work because they have to support server components. They are like, as a framework author, it's just like, it's a nightmare situation to build a completely new framework, but then still having to support the old one. And then like that would be the last place a framework author would want to be in. But that was the cost to pay for server components. Like, they paid a huge cost to support server components. Let's call what it is. They had such a bad code in Next, they couldn't maintain it. I mean, that's just like all software. That you can't really like make that specific argument for Next. That's just like all software. Anything that's built like after 5 or 6 years, it's gonna be needed to be rewritten. It's just not gonna scale with time. I don't think any software scales with time that well, because how fast everything moves. For fair, Nexus Pages is rendered by Pages router. That makes sense. I mean, they probably have precedents where like when you go to a route, it checks the app router first. If it doesn't find anything in the app router, then it goes to the Pages router. So like the app router probably takes precedence. If something isn't found in the app router, that's when it's going to look in the Pages router. So makes sense that the Pages router would be the one rendering photo 4. Because if the app router did it, you would never get to Pages router. It was a skill issue. Okay, you build an RSC framework then. Cannot do client-side navigation between 2 routes. Also makes sense because they're basically 2 different routers. Anyone saying skill issue, I want you to build your own RSC router, please. I'm sure you have better skill. Alright, let's give this to ChatGPT and see what he thinks. Okay. I did not like the outline you came up with, so here is the outline I came up with. And B Holmes do it in a video. He did. He did a simple version, like very, very, very simple version. So Chak is being cheated. Don't take them too seriously either way. I don't. It's fine. I've been a Twitch viewer for much longer than I've been a Twitch streamer. I know exactly what how chat behaves. It's fine. What do you think about this? Okay, start with a brief introduction to spas. Cascading waterfalls, blah blah blah. Okay. Let's see. And the benefits for creating dynamic, engaging UX. Highlight shift towards more interactive web apps. Importance of maintaining responsive UX. Okay, let's see. Explain how dependent requests can slow down page load. Visual examples. Large burdens or performance. Longer download times. Don't believe that, they think it's a skill issue. Sure. I'm sure that's on some level, like, they actually do. Like, every time someone says skill issue on Twitter or Twitch, I'm convinced that like 10% of their brain is like, yes, this is a real skill issue, and the rest 90% is that like it's trying to exaggerate it and like make it sensational or make it funny or whatever. Like there's some part of their brain which is like, no, this is a real skill issue. They're just bad developers. Highlight how complexity can lead to difficulties in maintenance, scaling, efficient development workflows. Okay, sure. How streaming architecture allows simultaneous loading of code and data, reducing wait times for the user. Benefits of streaming directly to Core Web Vitals. Importance of integrated approach. I just want to tell some. I've been in a manager chat on Teams that worked 6 months. That give me amazing insight. Yeah. On what? Yeah, on how to troll better or insight into what? How do I have like... How many viewers do I have on Twitter, by the way? I'm just curious. I know it's a meme. It's fine. I was just playing into the meme. I know skill issue is always a meme. Oh wow. According to Twitter, I have like 140 people watching, but not a single person bothered to put anything in the chat. Does chat work on Twitter yet? I mean, it feels like it should. Yo. Put something in the chat. I mean, I had to enable chat. Oh, it's disabled. Okay. That's my bad. Can I enable it? I think I can enable it now. If I go to... yeah, right there. Broadcasts. Here. Oops. Shut up. Advanced settings. Oh, I cannot change these anymore. I don't know why the default is no one. Like, why is the default disabled chat? That sucks. Leave them DMs, there's nothing fun in there. Not so much. I think you learned both how to commit and detect trolling as a mod, but we are having fun here. Yeah, that makes sense. Can't stream in a while. Should I like... You know what? I'm gonna end this and on Twitter, end it and start again so that we can have the chat. So if you're watching on Twitter, just like maybe stick around. You should probably see my profile again, or you should probably see this stream again. Gonna end. Okay. Create broadcast. Same thing. Add category technology. Select source OBS. Everyone. Hearts are on. Start immediately. Fine. Okay, that works. Create broadcast. Now you should be able to see it. And now you should be able to chat. So if I go to x.com, here's the new stream. Cool. I am going to pop out chat. Throw it in here. Okay. What's up? Twitter chat. Shane, what's up? Also on Twitter now. Perfect. I love that refreshing the page just throws away all the chat. Like now these are people who don't want to store server state, who only want client state. Link to my Twitch on my Twitter profile goes to a past broadcast that is also a dead link. That sounds not a lot of fun. Oh, okay. Yeah, this has to be. There's another 9 in here. For some reason. Okay, that should help. Yep, that works. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Where is ChatGPT? Okay. Is Prime still streaming? Is this why I have 8 viewers now? Because Prime ended stream. Yeah, Prime is not streaming anymore. Anthony, how's it going? We have a mod in the chat. You guys better be careful. Very, very careful. We have a moderator. We are working on a conference talk called Streams Not Waterfalls, Improving Page Load and Core Web Vitals. Okay. Let's see. So, good thing Ryan's in the chat then. Yeah. Ryan showed up in the chat. Matt Carroll showed up for a while. I think I can even see on mod view like who's in the chat, but I'm too lazy to open that. Corporate real life case studies example where streaming architecture has been successfully implemented to solve performance issues. That should be easy. Just throw in eBay and Marco. Provide before and after metrics from implementations to concretely demonstrate the impact on performance and core web vitals. Sure. Gonna have some demos in there. Discuss potential challenges, considerations when adopting streaming architecture. Browser support, every browser supports it. Fallbacks for non-streaming scenarios like progressive enhancement or like Node.js situations, I guess. SEO implications. Yeah, I mean, yeah, non-streaming SEO. I guess the server needs some way to detect that there's not going to be any JavaScript on the client and like send everything together. I honestly, I'm not fully sure how a streaming server deals with SEO. Like, can the server detect that the client is like a crawler or something that doesn't support JavaScript, so that it can it can just wait for the whole thing and send raw HTML without any like hydration scripts? Because I'm guessing that if you turn off JavaScript, you're just gonna get a bunch of like disconnected HTML in some cases. Okay. What's a good Remix homepage stream? Remix.run. Can I like control U this? Yeah, like I'm assuming this is being streamed. Can I pretty print this? Oh, line wrap, there we go. Yeah, code block. Nah, never mind. I'm too lazy to look at that. It probably, oh, it's this. One of the middleware Vercel advertised when they released Edge middleware. Looking for this. Okay, yeah. Look at the user agent, that makes sense. Yeah, so if it's a bot, then get on already, or just stream the flush the shell. That makes sense. Mentioning relevant web vitals metrics would be nice. Yeah, I mean, it should be, I'm assuming it's like all of them. Like if you adopt a streaming architecture, I think you just improve your, yes, you can send links on Twitter. You just improve like core web vitals across the board. maybe except for like largest contentful paint, because that's still reliant on the actually I don't know. A largest contentful paint can rely on a quick data fetch or like a long something that's very slow to respond. But yeah, I think streaming should pretty much help across the board. Okay, cool. I can close all of these. Flashbang. What was here? Okay. So now do I want to do demos first, or should we start with the slides maybe? I think we maybe start with the slides first. Let's see how good is ChatGPT at coming up with slides. I know there was a where is it? Nope. I'm gonna switch to this for a second so that I can open up my chat. Oops. Open up my ChatGPT history. Let's go to latest one. Late explore GPTs. I want a slideshow. Slide maker. Okay. So here I can give this, oops, my new outline, the detailed outline. Oops. Wow. I'm gonna stick to this. Okay, let's copy this from here. Okay. Generate some slides for a technical presentation titled Streams Not Waterfalls, blah blah blah. Here is an abstract summary of the presentation. I'm gonna open the Star Trek thing again so that I can copy this. And here is the outline for the presentation. And I'm gonna copy this. You know what? I just move this resources down so that I can do this. Okay, let's see what it can do. How many slides do you want for this presentation? That is a good question. I mean, I want at least one for all of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Anything between 15, 12 to 30. Let's give it a good range. Okay. It's gonna come up with some slides, and until then, I'm gonna take a quick pee break. Enjoy the music. Looks like I missed an important step. Okay. Oh, it has created. Download the presentation if you cannot click blah blah blah. Let's see what it has. Where is it anyways? Oh, now it's okay. It's gonna take a while. How's it going? Keep ignoring Twitter chat. You can also hurt your contentful paint with streaming and spinners. Elaborate more on that. How do you hurt your contentful paint with streaming and spinners? Like, how do you hurt it more than the alternative? Like, what's the alternative where you have a better LCP? Maybe if you just like, I don't know. Can't really think of anything. Like, what's a non-streaming solution that gives you better LCP is basically my question. LCP measures how much stuff is jumping on the page, and if you do a bunch of out-of-order streaming, you can move stuff around. So you're talking about like layout shift. Like with out-of-order streaming, you'll have layout shifts, and that hurts LCP. That's fine, just use skeletons instead of spinners. I mean, that's not a streaming issue, that's you're using spinners instead of skeletons. Remember, pulsing skeletons good, spinners bad. Right? That's why everyone's moved to pulsing skeletons. Because we wanted less layout shift. Okay, what's a real-world example? What real-world example will you mention or a demo? ChatGPT response streaming is a cool example too. Yeah. I mean, literally any e-commerce site, any content site, blog posts, there's like infinite examples of what you can do with streaming. Browsers know how to hold paint before everything is ready. Not sure I get the point. It's better not to send anything for a while compared to just sending just the shell. Interesting. What about you send the shell, but instead of like out of order streaming 20 different partials, you just fill in like all the content on the screen like at once. So you really only have like one loading state after the shell. Thing is, I think you should send the initial shell as quickly as possible without waiting for any data, so that browsers can start loading in like assets. So like PPR, but partial pre-rendering, but not necessarily like static. You could just like render the shell and send it instead of having it like static, like partial pre-rendered. So you can still do that. And I definitely prefer that because of loading assets. Send nothing, send everything above the fold, then sending the rest of the best UX. So when you say send nothing, do you mean that just don't even send any HTML at all? Or do you mean like just send HTML, send the head at least? Just sending just 100 pixels or something instead of nothing will basically look worse. Okay, what if you just send the head so that you can start, so that the browser can start loading? And you just send like div id equals root. Nothing except for div id equals root. And then let everything else stream in. Or yeah, you can send HTML that doesn't create any. Right, yeah. Okay. Empty divs are fine. I'm very curious on. I mean, I clearly don't understand Core Web Vitals well enough. But yeah, that's very interesting that you can just that the LCP would be better if you show just a blank white page instead of. I mean, I guess in that case, I will defer to the opinion that Core Web Vitals don't fully encapsulate good UX. So even though this might hurt your Core Web Vitals metric a little bit, it will just be a clearly much better user experience that you can just show. You can show at least something, some sort of user feedback, and something that they can interact with, like the nav bar and the footer or anything like that, and then stream in the rest. Now you're talking about LCP. Yeah, I'm talking about UX. How it affects. Wait, you were talking about LCP here? That LCP is bad if you send like some shell that are not just empty divs and then later send in. Like in terms of UX, sending a shell would always be better. Okay, I think at this point I'll just have to like build a bunch of demos and benchmark myself. Sending nothing is what I was doing to improve UX in one of my apps. I don't understand that. Like, how is sending nothing better than... wait, what happened here? Thought I downloaded it. I guess I'll have to stay on this page. There we go, okay. GPT store, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Is the very first slide thank you? This is the very first slide. AI is taking over our jobs, people. By making thank you the very first slide. Oh no. Imagine I go up on stage, I set everything up, I share my screen, my slides are up on the projector or whatever, and the first thing you see is thank you, and I just walk off the stage. Is that what you want, AI doc maker? All right, intro to single page apps. Came up with 21 slides. Okay, how much did I tell you? Okay. So you decided on 21. Cool. Challenges in SPA development, blah, blah. You know what? I don't think I can rely on stuff like this. Like, this is not the kind of slides that I want. Sending nothing is... okay, I'm gonna need you to explain on how sending nothing was better UX compared to sending us like a shell with some real UIs and some pulsing skeletons. Someone... oh, Yash Singh followed. Thank you for following. Thank you for stopping by. Benefits of streaming, user interactions, core vitals. Yeah, no, this is not gonna work. Can we take a moment and appreciate? Need more butterflies? Oh, butterflies, you mean? Yeah. Can we take a moment to appreciate that the very first slide is thank you? Anyways, okay, what else you got? Transform with AI, open in ChatGPT. Start chatting with Doc, okay. Magic details. Yeah. Nah, I can't really use that. I think the problem is that I cannot really, like, you cannot really just develop the slideshow independent of like how you're going to actually present it. How browsers can hold paint for new page loads. Basically, if the app is pretty fast, then UX between nothing to app looks better than nothing shell app. Yeah, but I'm working on the assumption that the app is not pretty fast. Like, the app is pretty fast is not a working assumption that I can carry on, that I can carry with me when I'm building something. Last slide should be yeah, close, thank you. Right, so you're saying that if the app gets the responses, or if the browser gets the responses fast enough, 3 different renders is going to be worse than, or like 2 different renders is worse than just render the whole thing at once. Render the whole thing at once is going to be better if the browser gets the data fast enough. Yeah, that's fair. I understand that. I just think that that's not a baseline assumption that we can just make. It's better to assume that things are going to be slow at some point for someone and then use that. Browsers are not set to show you nothing state. Yeah. I mean, the only state that browsers are set to show you is error. Anything other than that has to be like whatever you're rendering, whatever the server throws back. Either you get something from the server or you have an error. There's no nothing. Okay, so this is not gonna work. Bye bye ChatGPT. I think I'm just gonna have to do this one myself. You can see animation in that link. Which link? Was it here? Wait, which link? Or are you talking about like, should not allow it? Send it in chat. Yeah, I see that /blog/paint holding link that you sent. Oh, okay. You mean in the article? Yeah. Okay. Got it. I thought you meant that there is an animation in the link. Right. Oh, awards is fun. I used to browse awards a bunch in high school. Paint holding. Okay. But this is like an MPA style navigation, right? This feels like an MPA navigation. Wait, do it again. Yeah. This is an MPA navigation. What about this one? Right, so this just goes from the first state to the next state without an intermediary block, like a spinner state. Yeah, I mean, sure. Arnav, thanks for the follow. Yeah, that's fair. But like, the second one you can also see, like when you click on the second one, when you click on something, like for a while you don't see anything, right? So like you're already gonna get this. This is basically like transitions, React transitions. There's just a transition here that you're gonna wrap the navigation with a transition so that, and you're gonna wait for everything to come back, like to for the browser to get all the data before you paint it. That makes sense. And the first one is that you're just not doing it with a transition. Started streaming recently, didn't know you were streaming. I started streaming like a year ago, but I stream very rarely. Like this, I've probably streamed like 10 or 11 times in a whole year. I mean, this is like a UX choice you can make. I do agree that the second one is would be better in most cases. But like I guess I was mostly talking about initial load. Get that for free in modern browsers. I'm saying like server component land, RSC land. You have, I guess even in RSC land, Next.js automatically wraps it in a transition. But like if you have async fragments, or if you have server components and if you have things like suspense, I guess, or even in solid.js with suspense, if you don't wrap it in a transition, you're going to see the intermediary state. But if you put it in as transition, then it's going to wait for the next page to fully load. If you have streaming shell, you might get into deopt, and your UI will look like the one on the left. So I was only talking about initial load, not navigation. I agree that on navigation, you probably don't want. No need streaming it. It'll take years before people start. Yeah, I'm hoping I can help with that. But yeah, like on navigation, I agree that just hold the UI. It works like that on initial load as well. I mean, on initial load, is there an example for initial load? There isn't one. But yeah, on initial load, if it's fast enough, sure. Don't show a spinner. Don't show a skeleton. I'm just going on the assumption that it's going to be slow. So I would much prefer to have that fix like new tab UI and your app. The difference between new tab UI and my app is that I don't have anything to see on the new tab. On my app, I prefer if it holds the current UI, because I want to scroll and interact with something else. Like maybe I clicked the wrong link, or maybe I want to see something else, or maybe like while it's loading in the background, I still want to scroll and see some other stuff. Like that's the UX that I want for navigation. But when I go from a new tab to some app, I want to know immediately that this new app is working and I got something back. The same paint holding between new tab UI and your app. So the same paint holding between new tab UI and your app. Yeah, that's fair. But again, the paint holding stuff is mostly relevant if the app is fast, like you talked about. There, I'm going on the assumption that the app is not fast. So that will almost always like be a negligible. Be like the paint holding is going to be negligible compared to data fetching. That's where my head is at. Start seeing this now that I said about it. See the app immediately. Like when I go to x.com, like I immediately see that first, and I see a bunch of different spinners, but that's the kind of experience that I prefer, where I immediately know that I'm on x.com, and then stuff starts loading in, instead of like me being stuck on the new tab UI for 5 seconds and then seeing this immediately. Like compared to like just seeing all of twitter.com at once, I would prefer what it is like right now, where I see that I'm on Twitter immediately and then the rest loads in. Okay. Gotten a little off track. All browsers see an empty blank page, then our website. Is that because streaming doesn't work? They have a service worker. Even better. Yeah. I mean, a service worker is like just like it's just an extra level of caching, right? Like you either render / cache on the edge, so you get an immediate response from there. Because i6 didn't have paint holding. Okay, fair. Right, like you either cache / render on the edge, or you cache/render locally using a service worker. So I mean, I see that service worker as just like an extension of caching that works offline and is much faster. I'm interested. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, I really want to get back on track here. It's been 2 hours. I'll have to read more on paint holding. I don't think I fully understand it yet. But thanks for the link. I'm gonna open it up again and I'm gonna bookmark it and I'm gonna read more on it later. Thanks. Okay. I guess I should do demos first, maybe. I want a good demo for... I mean, I can just make a blog post, or I can make an e-commerce site, maybe. Or for this, I can just have like some sample code on the slides. I don't need a demo for this. Gonna want a demo. I can like start talking about streaming architecture as like in its ultimate form, kind of a hypothetical where you get something immediately and then everything else starts streaming in, so everything can be loaded much faster, and then demos for this part. So, okay, I'm definitely gonna need one demo that's no streaming, that's just waterfall heavy. And then talk about like, you can bring, you either hoist up, manually hoist everything, or you bring in a caching solution or a compiler like Relay. Or caching solution plus compiler like Relay, I guess. And then I have an example for this with like, with Remix. And then I have an example for server components, which is gonna be the one we spend the most time on. Okay, so how do we want to demo this? Let's go back to ChatGPT and see if it can come up with one. Okay. I want to demonstrate this. Waterfall sources streaming. To demonstrate waterfall sources streaming, I want a demo application built with traditional waterfall heavy approach, remixes, streaming data approach, and server components. I want these three to be the same demo, just built using different tools. What would be a good demo application? for this purpose. Newsfeed platform, yeah, that makes sense. So, Hacker News. Just go back to like good old Hacker News. I mean, I don't need the implementation details. Can I just use like... There should be a bunch of Hacker News implementations already that I can use for this, right? I can just go to Ryan and like, hey, I need these 3 Hacker News implementation, and he'll have like the URLs memorized for all of them, I'm guessing. Or I can just build one. Or build 3, I mean. Give me a few more demo application ideas. E-commerce, yeah, I mean, that was what I thought of. Or it could be like a documentation or a wiki site. Social media, another good one. I mean, it's basically social media and newsfeed, like very intertwined. Travel booking and itinerary, somewhat similar to e-commerce, but yeah, online learning platform. So like, yeah, content stuff. Ooh. I can use Devtranet for this. Devtranet.tech. Let's log into this. Takes a while to show the login page. See, that was another example. I was here, and then I click login, and it takes a while for me to come to this page. Let's log in with Gmail. Okay, there we go. I can try to work on this one. It's open source, I believe. And they have like a bunch of different content sources. I'm guessing at least. Yeah, I can look at their source code and see how they're doing stuff, and basically like rebuild this scrapbook page. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So because we have a featured people, we have the feed, and we have the messages, notifications. So we basically have like 1, 2, 3, 4 different data sources. Flashback. Messages. Takes a while to open up. Yeah. Oh, I unfollowed them. Okay. If I click on this, opens up a modal. Yeah, and even in here we can have like, I don't know, yeah, I can look at this source code and just try to rebuild this multiple times. Yeah, that should be fun. I think a very ChatGPT like example is one of the best because it's very visual. I think the problem with the ChatGPT style example is that I don't think it works. Like, you basically have to use streaming for this. Like, one of the idea is not to like really show what streams can do. The idea is that your existing applications right now might be suffering from this, and here's how you can improve them. I'm not just trying to show off what streaming can do. I'm trying to get people to like realize how streaming can help their apps right now, whatever they're building. And I think a ChatGPT like example is like very disconnected, like very far away from most applications that people have or people are building right now. You kind of get the point? Does that make sense? Like for a ChatGPT like app, like you really have to use streaming. There's really no other way. like no way to build something like that if you don't support streaming, or I guess WebSockets, but streaming makes a little more sense there. You don't necessarily need a WebSocket server for that. Okay, so we have the demo ideas, social media feed. Maybe use DevTranet for this. What else? Ecom? Or what else was here? Online learning platform, basically a content platform. Travel booking, which is just like a different version of e-commerce. Let's see, travel booking. If I go to, let's say booking.com, hope it doesn't dox me or anything. Okay. So what do we have here? We don't really have a lot of, like, we have recent searches, offers, trending destinations, where you have lived. So there's quite a stuff here as well. You can definitely do like a e-commerce or online learning, something like that. That might be almost like closer to home for a lot of the people there. E-com platform. Show what would be the multiple data sources here. If I go to, let's say, ebay.com, what do they have? Okay, top level promos, so like a carousel, offers, trending, right, and personal stuff, or customized, personalized stuff. Let's see, personalized recommendations, offers, recent searches maybe, trending, and for social media feed you just have like the feed, might want to follow, and then notifications, messages. So we have like different data sources which might cause waterfalls, blah blah blah. They see when this works, this almost works better because you might have the notification messages stuff in the layout, like maybe even outside of the router, so they get loaded immediately, but then you have to load the router, you have to load the route before you can load this. Cool. Okay, decent progress so far, I think. Damn. After like restarting my Twitter stream, the viewership dropped significantly. So I guess I should not do that from the next time. Good to know, good to know, good to know. Okay, let's see if they actually ended up open sourcing DevTranet. They did not. It's still private. Okay, cool. I know they talked about open sourcing it, so I'm gonna ask them if they're going to do that at some point soon, and then I can use that. All right, where's my to-do list? Dismiss. Done that. Soon. Let's see. I'm done with outline. Demos and slides will come soon. Okay. Versal/clerk also render your app and then stream in data about user organization. I did ChatGPT app without streaming. How so? Like, how did you have the chat response stream in, like word by word? How did that work? Render your app and then stream in the data about user org. Yeah, most of them. Does Clerk actually do that? Because Clerk doesn't use server components for any of the actual components. Like, it's all regular React components that also SSR. They just wrap it with the server component to grab like cookies and request headers. But other than that, they don't really. I think they do that in the client component, but like it was built before use, the use hook. So, like, is there like before the use hook? Deno.dev answer simple, don't stream word by word. So how do you stream then? You just wait for the whole thing? Just wait for the whole response? So for channel, give instructions, it'll continue. First instruction, off on the lever and pulled it. Suddenly she was outside and saw several doors. Has to choose which one to open. We know the server whole JSON. Yeah, I know. See, when I said that there's no way to do it, what I meant was that there's no way to do it while keeping it a good user experience. Now, if you're just gonna say that there is a way to do it, but it's bad UX, I don't really count that. It's almost like expected at this point, because if your app goes too long without responding anything, like the user's just gonna think that nothing happened and they're gonna try to refresh or cancel and do it again, like try to get the data again, try to like submit the form again, which is really what you don't want them to do. So yeah, I think for anything ChatGPT like, I would say that streaming is like a must, which makes it not a great demo where I'm trying to show off why streaming is important. Okay, so I have the demos. How much can I work on slides before demos? Let's see. Slides. So I can let's make this that, put them in here. Okay, I can get rid of this now and I'll keep it around. Outline, or no, abstract. You can move in here, collapse, outline, move in here, collapse, slides, move in here. Okay. What I'm gonna do is open it in a new tab and put it here. that. Okay, so I can have the outline here, and I can start working on the slides. Okay. I'm just gonna start with like, spas are awesome. It's gonna be the first slide. Spas are awesome. And then instant UX feedback, dynamic experiences, optimistic updates, all the good stuff that you can do with a spa. Don't listen to the HTMX propaganda. Don't fall for the HTMX propaganda. Just to get backend devs upset. Hey, I'm a backend dev. HTMX is spa framework, by the way. I'm not gonna fall for it, Jailarchy. I'm telling others to not fall for it. Obviously, I'm not gonna fall for it. If I fall for it, then what's the point of me telling others that don't fall for it? Okay. Spas are horrible. Spas can be horrible. So close. Co-location of rendering and data logic is great, is desirable for scalable DX. Hoisting data fetching is awkward and brittle. I'm just gonna like grab some slides from, I don't know if you guys have seen this talk, reintroducing Relay. Where is it? Yeah, here. Robert Balicki. He's a great guy. Gave an amazing talk. I'm just gonna borrow like basically half of his presentation from here for this section. Co-location is desirable but leads to waterfalls. Hosting data fetching is awkward and brittle but has nice performance characteristics. I'm gonna make it perf characteristics so that I sound more hip. What else? Compiler plus cache solutions like Relay bring in a lot of skyrocket JavaScript bundles. What about SSR? SSR is nice. I mean, if we're talking about spa performance, Nox, how's it going? If we're talking about spa performance, we have to bring up SSR. But SSR is only like helpful for initial load. After that, it doesn't do much. Like initial load and SEO. SSR necessary evil. It's, yeah. The point I'm trying to make is that or the what I'm wondering right now is like, is it worth bringing up? Was because I started splitting bundles. I mean, yeah, I guess I have to bring in code splitting in here somewhere. But like you can split bundles without SSR. Like we were doing code splitting before SSR, right? Like code splitting was not sure. I would honestly, I would say that I wouldn't. The confounding variable, so the messages big performance boost from SSR frameworks was because they started splitting bundles. I think the confounding variable there is actually file system routing. Like they just happen to also do SSR, almost all of them, but splitting bundles was easier because of file system routing, not because SSR. You can, but I'm still seeing 5 MB CRA apps. Yeah, that makes sense. So like code splitting was a solution. It was just like it required a lot of setup. So when file system routing showed up, it just automated all the code splitting setup. But it also had SSR. So like SSR itself didn't really offer a lot of performance other than initial load. So yeah, okay, SSR helps with initial load. Sure. We're gonna go with that. Initial load. Let's add this in here. Code splitting helps with. Okay, let's move this here. Okay, I want this to kind of like follow a path. Code splitting helps with kind of bundle splitting SSR. Like let's conflating bundle splitting with SSR, like some people conflate RSC when streaming. Are you gonna like make me diagram this? Helps with large JavaScript bundles, but is painful to set up. But requires setup and contributes to waterfalls. Okay, so we have kind of like an Ouroboros going on. So we want co-location, but it leads to waterfalls. We can hoist the data fetching for waterfalls, but it gets awkward for DX. Compiler and cache solutions can help with the DX, but they increase the bundles. Then you can code split the bundles, but you go back to waterfalls. So it's like there's really no solution to this. Every solution introduces another problem, and if you try to fix that problem, you introduce a new problem, and eventually you just keep introducing problems over problems. Where does SSR come in then? It doesn't really come in this cycle, at least. I guess it helps here. And where's initial page load? Helps with initial page load. And now I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make this a bit more cohesive, but for now this is what I'm going with. SR helps with initial load, but blocks. Nah. SR doesn't really do much actually. Like SSR is somewhat helpful for initial page load. Nah, okay, never mind. It does help initial page load a bit. That's really it. Demo spinner hell. Talks to DB on the server. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, that's what I thought. Didn't think of initially. So yeah, SSR because it's technically closer to the data, if you're not on the edge at least, it helps with the initial load, but that's pretty much it. And then yeah, demo spinner help. Sends data for page inlined in the HTML. I mean, it introduces, you're saying that it introduces the double data problem, but introduces double data, or I guess you're saying it's helpful because it sends the data, and I'm writing that what I'm writing here is that it's harmful because it brings in the double data problem. Double data and hydration, which are I guess going to persist if I'm going to talk about SSR and RSCs. Sending one inline JSON could be a benefit compared to fetching 10 requests. Right, yeah. I mean, that's, yeah. But again, that's initial load. Like that all counts under initial load. That, okay, the first load you don't have to fetch data on the client. You just have to fetch all the HTML and that's it. Yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at this. SSR helps with the initial load a bit. It doesn't help with navigations, and it still blocks. So I'm gonna get to SSR like once we are here. So it's going to go through server as well. Next load is going to go through server as well. Is it? I mean, yeah, it's going to fetch the data on the server, but like that's not really different from a non-SSR app. Calling DB from loader, yeah, but then you're like hosting data fetching. Then you're again like, it's not SSR, it's the data hoisting. Or hoisting the data fetching is what's actually causing the benefit. Yeah, it's not SSR. Again, these two are different things. It's like SSR and file system routing. Like file system routing is the thing that actually helps with code splitting, not SSR. And hoisting data fetching is actually what helps with, I guess, hoisting, and not SSR. And if you have 10 waterfall data calls, you'll be adding delays. Right. So you have to hoist them. What next? Solution, streaming. Streams are here to save us. When old becomes new again. Only one HTTP call needed from client to server to get everything needed. I mean, that's, so I'll kind of start with like, this is the ideally this is where we want to be, is that when once we are on the client, or like the client should only need to make one HTTP request, and then everything that it needs is streamed in as the response of that one HTTP request. Ideally, like obviously there's sometimes like you're gonna have to load the data and then you're gonna have to load the code, so that's inevitable, the hydration code at least. Or in terms of like in the case of streaming data, you're gonna load the code and then all the data has come in on a single request. But you no longer need to wait for the slowest one. Yeah. So I guess I can put that somewhere here. Is awkward and brittle. blocking but avoid spinner hill. So that's kind of the idea, that you can hoist data fetching so that you get all the data at once, but then you're waiting for all the data at once. So like overall it's probably going to be faster if you hoist everything, but now you're blocking is the idea. And then compiler cache solutions like relay, skyrocket, JavaScript bundles, and then I can bring this back to talk about differ and streaming within like GraphQL streaming essentially. Respond with whatever data is available as soon as data is available, doesn't block for slow requests or slow fetches. Yes, by hoisting data fetching I mean things like loader, get server side props, correct, or preload as the new solid router and TanStack router call it. But yeah, hoisting basically means that you're no longer just co-locating logic. You now also need to make sure the router knows what data to fetch. And I'm gonna, at some point I'm gonna make the argument that Ryan's probably gonna hate me for this, but at some point I'm gonna make the argument that server waterfalls are fine, okay-ish. And if you really want to opt out of, like, make sure there are no server waterfalls, you can hoist up on the server. But the idea is that we want to eliminate client server waterfalls, which are like an order of magnitude more impactful than server database waterfalls. At that point I'm going to say like, okay, either cache your data or preload your data or both, and that's going to be helpful for server. Like, you guys are backend people, you can probably figure out how to make your server fetches faster. I'm just here to talk about client server, not server database. I'm sorry, Ryan, if you're seeing this. I guess let's talk about single flight mutations at some point as well, where you send a post or put request, and instead of going to a instead of like getting a response and then refetching, some sort of waterfalls and some waterfalls are always inevitable, but I'm talking more like RSC waterfalls, which are not inevitable. They're just like the model encourages, or the model doesn't do anything to help you against those sort of waterfalls. Like, that should be inevitable because of how async await works. But yeah, we can also talk about single flight mutations in here. Yeah. Should also probably mention here, like, I know spas are horrible. Ajax is kind of a foot gun. Like, if you think about the days before Ajax, we never had waterfalls. Like, we have waterfalls because we have Ajax. So we just need to very carefully use Ajax. Okay, streams are here to save us, blah blah blah. And here I want to talk about Core Web Vitals. Well, not yet actually, because I need to go to implementations let's see, I'll leave this in here, optional, because I think core web, it's better to just demonstrate better core web vitals through using our demos. Maybe here, like, we can use some hypothetical diagrams to show, like, hey, here's how core web vitals might be helpful, might help, or like might be improved, and then we go into demos and then show that again. I'll see what we can do there. Okay. Implementing streaming. Need control over, first of all, you need a server. And you need the server and client to coordinate. And you need a programming model. So this would be promises inside promises, or this would be async fragments, or let's call it async components. So this is where I'm just gonna skip GraphQL here, and I think this is a better, I like this approach honestly better, where we talk about, like, streaming, we need both of these pieces to work together, and then I talk about, like, okay, what are the two different approaches to authoring streaming, or like different async primitives. For solid.js here. Kevin Vandy, how's it going? Thank you for stopping by. I am honored. Relay is a Markov of React that will solve everything that we are still trying to get out of RSCs, pretty much. Yeah. Relay is the Markov of React plus GraphQL. I mean, the React part in Relay is just that they fully integrated with suspense. So like they had all the nice characteristics of suspense that we want, which is like don't need to handle any loading spinners. We just declare that we need this data and it's there. And if we want to show loading spinners, we throw in suspense. We never have to deal with like is loading, is error, things like that. But other than that, like all the fancy stuff like streaming, that was built into Relay. I wasn't really and also honestly, if you like Relay, check out Isograph. Isograph is a pretty fun project that Robert Bleak is working on, who was basically this guy actually, like who had the reintroducing Relay talk. Yeah, I'm preparing a similar talk for a conference in a couple months, only showing RSCs at the end though. So much for me to still learn about RSCs. Yeah, I'm also on showing RSCs at the end. So if you look at the outline, we like go over spas, the problem with spas, talk about streaming architecture, and like what do you need to implement it, and then like server components. So yeah, honestly very similar. I'm only going to show RSCs at the end because the primary point is to the main point is to like talk about these problems and how streaming helps. RSCs is like one solution to it, not the only one. Yeah, check out Isograph. It's pretty fun. It's built by Robert Belicki, who was on the Relay team, pretty influential. Came up with similar ideas, though. Yeah, please link your abstract. I wanna give it a read. Really wanna know what you come up with as well. Sessionize, cool. All right, reaction time. From use effect to RSCs. React is just one popular. Right, give me a second. Okay. React is just one popular library in many JavaScript ecosystem that can be used to build modern applications. Even after you choose React, you will be met with hundreds, if not thousands, more choices for how you want to architect your app. I am also going to link this if you're interested. Check this out as well. That's my CFP. And it's mine. In this session, let's try to understand one thing very well. What are the different data fetching patterns throughout the massive landscape that's a React ecosystem? What are the pros and cons for each type of application you want to build? Compare CRA, Vite, Next.js, Remix, and more. Take a look at how most of us started React writing apps. As clients had only single-page apps. It's the best practices to build that kind of app can be. Take a deep dive into pendulum swing, moving React back to the server, SSG, SSR, RSC. Have a lot to offer in terms of capabilities, DX, and better resulting UX if used in the right situation. Right. Nice. So yeah, the premise that you're going in with is let's explore all the different data fetching patterns and their trade-offs. The premise that I'm going in with is that, hey, your SPA is bad and it needs streaming. Let's figure it out. Let me tell you how to do streaming. Right. Sounds great. Yeah. Someone telling people, hey, you're doing something wrong, let me teach you how to do it right. Always sounds great. Those are the best kind of content. Okay, I think I like this approach now. Andrew Dak, thanks for the follow. Too scared to determine the exact answer. I'm still the it depends guy for the most part. Low. Yeah, I mean I'm also very much an it depends guy. It's just that like streaming is like using a streaming architecture and trying to eliminate client server waterfalls. Like eliminating waterfalls, it's almost never going to be it's just objectively a bad thing. Like you objectively just want to get rid of waterfalls just so that your app is more performant, right? So the premise is kind of like, no, streaming is objectively better. It's just how you implement streaming will have. Most of my audience would be React devs though. Yeah, Star Trek is also like not a React conference. The problem is that who else has streaming? Like Vue doesn't, and Angular like basically just came up with deferrable views. And I don't know how well it works with SSR, but I guess it works well enough. But I don't have a lot of it's new and I don't have really any experience with deferrable Angular views. The other options are SvelteKit and SolidStart, which are going to be which are like already niche in front-end communities. It's going to be a niche of a niche at Star Trek, at the conference that I'm going to. So I'm really left, the only thing I'm left with is Remix and Next.js. I don't even think Gatsby has streaming. Like Gatsby is all based on GraphQL. And SSG. I don't know how well it does with SSR and streaming. Yeah. So yeah, I think it'll come down to I'll still have a bunch of it depends, but it'll mostly be okay, what streaming framework / architecture you go for. Redwood does, they already implement RSC. Yeah, so Redwood is going to be another one where that's why I'm just talking about server components, because it applies to both Next.js and Redwood. My examples are probably going to be Next.js, but I can also shout out, hey, Redwood already has RSCs. Check out Waku and wait for Remix to decide that they're okay with server components. Right. and wait another couple years for Tanner to come around to RSCs. That's probably going to be the idea, or that's going to be how I put it out. Like, I cannot even spend too much time on this, because like just how unfamiliar Sologis is going to be to the audience. Yeah. Optional. RSCs and Marco go in here. This is Remix, Svelte Kit. I think I can get rid of this. Okay. Yeah, so first we're gonna need to say that we need a server. With Relay, it's the GraphQL server that supports streaming, and with anything else, you just need that, right? We can't really get streaming without a server. If you're just talking, if you just have a CSR app directly talking to API routes, yeah, you can't really do it. You need a BFF. Is around to liking RCs is a hard problem to make, still to make it compatible with this fine-grained re-rendering stuff right now. Yeah, I've heard this from like multiple people. Actually, like Robert Beliki, the guy working on Isograph, he's running into the same problem because he's essentially, like he's basically building a router for React. He's basically building a React framework, which includes a router, like same thing that Tanner is doing, but it's all GraphQL. Like GraphQL is the routing layer for his React application. So obviously he wants to do all his like all the async stuff in the GraphQL layer, and that doesn't really that's not really compatible with what's it called, with concurrent React. So I heard the same stuff from him, is that React is not really a great choice. He just picked React because that's where people are at, that's where the audience is, but for a GraphQL based router, like React is not a great choice, which makes sense. I don't think it's a great choice for most frameworks that are trying to be optimal. And on the other hand, how Solid.js is implementing like async suspense, it's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Like his Signals 2.0 live stream, amazing stuff. I think Solid.js is really going to take like the best of React. I mean, that's what it's always done, but it's going to take the best of React and make it the most optimal solution, which is like the absolute best sweet spot. CSR apps talking. Okay, so this is the only place where there's a trade-off of streaming, is that if you want to take full advantage of streaming capabilities, you're gonna need a BFF server, which is going to like add a tiny little expense to your infrastructure. Like it's an additional piece of infrastructure that you need. So unless like you're really tight on infrastructure, like that's really the only it depends that I can think of in terms of like why would you not want streaming. Let me write it like this: streaming versus non, like it, I don't know. Like these are all huge pros, like huge benefits of streaming, and really the biggest trade-off, the biggest like disadvantage is that you need a new server. Maybe you already have a server, in which case it's fine. But yeah, you need a server. I guess cost of streaming. Architecture. Syrup's talking to simple API routes cannot take advantage of this. So if for some reason really all you can afford is a CSR app talking to existing routes, no streaming for you. Okay. For which ones? I think programming model goes first. I don't know which one goes first. Actually, I think this goes in here. So to give like a nice developer experience on top of streaming, you're gonna need first a programming model, which the main one I want to focus on is async components, or it could also be promises inside promises. But the prerequisite to all of them is that the server and client need to coordinate, which is why you kind of need this I kind of wish I'd pivot all my new site stuff to solid, but I still trust React too much for now. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna try to pivot most of the job that I'm working at. That's gonna be React and Remix. I'm hopefully like I can convince them in a couple days or so, or not a couple days, but in a few months or so to like switch over to Solid Start, especially as it hits 1.0. Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely like moving all my side stuff to Solid. Don't know about the main stuff. If you have 4 hours, what's happening? First edit of production server component tutorial is done. Who's gone 3.5 hours to watch it early? Give feedback. You know what? Sure. How long ago is that? It's literally now. Should I watch on stream? Can I watch on stream? It's gonna be a fun 4 hours on stream. Let's see. It's almost 9 p.m. now. I'm probably not going to be awake for that long. You know what? I have a... I'm flying to Salt Lake City tomorrow for Epic WebConf. Yeah, I'm going to Epic WebConf. So I can watch this in my flight. No better way for me to... Great way for me to kill time during my flight to SLC tomorrow. I need to kill time during my flight to SLC tomorrow. Shoot. Get out my way. Yeah, I'll also be there tomorrow. I should be there tomorrow. Wonder if I can swing by Epic WebConf and buy the ticket. I mean, you broke into React Rally. I'm sure you can break into Epic WebConf, or at least the after party if there is one. Yeah, I'm gonna be there tomorrow, 3 p.m. EST. So that should be, what's the time zone in SLC? Time zone Mountain. So 1 p.m. Yeah. SF+1, yeah. Kind of agree more with Dan Abramov about solid signals. React is not required to write rendering logic inside out just to get things to update. React, everything is reactive by default. It's the opposite. React, everything is static by default. It's not reactive. But I don't think SolidJS requires you to write your rendering logic inside out. In my, tell you only your template re-executes. Putting rendering logic on top level component body is a mistake. You can't use top level control flow or read values at top level. That's fine. The thing is, like, my almost 3 years of writing React code, it changes very little when I move to Solid. The thing is, like, React lets you like write top level control flow or read values wherever you want, but like, at least in my experience, like, that's not something that I end up doing anyways. Like, that extra flexibility that React affords me is not really something I use anyways. Like, I don't necessarily want to do all the crazy stuff that React lets me do. The way I write React is very close to the way SolidJS has to be written, like idiomatic SolidJS, like deriving stuff. Now, yeah, the compiler kind of like goes away from that. Compiler says that, yeah, do whatever you want. But makes sense why you would prefer that. Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, like, SolidJS like gives me the best of React while eliminating the worst parts of it. So if you think of like React as like, it gives you the entire spectrum of like flexibility, there's like the good part and the bad part. The good part is how I want to write code anyways, and the bad part is like what causes all the foot guns, like dependency arrays. So if you just remove the good part, you take away some of the flexibility. Like, you can only write code this way now. You cannot write code this way now. This is the only thing that you have. But this affords you so much more performance and capabilities overall that the trade-off is absolutely worth it. Like, you probably don't want to write code this way anyways, but just because React lets you do it doesn't mean you should. And by getting rid of that, you get so much more in return. I don't know how much sense that made. And like, React's like, philosophically, React wants that entire spectrum to be available, which is why it's probably never going to add signals, like runtime signals at least. Or maybe it does, like, maybe once the compiler gets adopted enough, they change it to a signal-based runtime. But the idea is that it's never going to let you author with signals, because it eliminates like some of that spectrum of flexibility. For some reason, it thinks that you should have the entire flexibility spectrum available to you. I disagree with that. I think that there should be an idiomatic way to write code, and if that's the case, then the framework can help you out a lot more. Yeah, React compiler, the React compiler doesn't address any issues. All it does is that it gets rid of dependency arrays, but it's not really the same thing. Okay, I'm done with that. Yeah, this is a fun talk. Where is this? Where are you giving this talk, by the way? Like, have you... are you still here, Kevin? Which conference did you submit this to? Or like, which conference did this get accepted into? Actually, yeah, maybe I can check here. I'm here. Which conference is this at? Fronts pause with React query, that's fun. Doesn't show here. Nebraska, oh okay, Nebraska code. Got it. Oh, was that? No, okay, that's your location, not I thought it should show in the speaker profile like where you got accepted or where you're giving this talk. Let me see, do I have a speaker profile? Okay. Oh, it shows events instead of okay. I can probably edit my speaker profile to show that. Oh no. Oh, I really need to change this. I thought I did. Okay, I guess I did not. You just made my abstracts public. Got it. Okay. I have a, did you only make like the accepted abstracts public or all of them? Like, is there an option to do all of them or just the accepted ones? All of them. Okay. Wait, you only have 2 abstracts? How do you only have like 2 abstracts? I thought it was like best practice to spray and pray. Like write a bunch of them. Submit a bunch of abstracts everywhere you can. And especially if it's anonymous, it's fine. Oh, it's a first year. Okay, got it. Let's see. Speaker. How many CFPs do I have? Sessions. Okay, I have a bunch. Way too many. I'll try to submit a bunch to submit it to Stir Trek, React Conf, React Rally, Code Mash, ngConf. Yeah, way too many. Last year spoke at Low Code Meet first time, went okay, so branching out. That's awesome. Man, big congrats. Big congrats. Oh, in profile, okay. That's... I don't know, honestly, I don't even know if I want to make all of them public. If there's any that you guys want to see, let me know. This is the one that I ended up making into a workshop that I presented at React Summit. I have a build your own React meta framework. This is like one of the very first ones that I wrote, breaking barriers with server components. This is fun. Yeah, this is the one that ended up getting accepted. Cool. See a pattern of my topics? What's the pattern? What pattern did you notice? Like front end, server components, signals? Is that it? Yeah, I love streaming. This is, honestly, this is like the only talk that I have on streaming. Like breaking barrier with server components. Where is it? This one is not about streaming. This is about composition, mostly. Like co-location and composition. Streaming is I mean, obviously there's this one, which is probably more about, I guess, local caching and optimistic stuff, optimistic updates. But this is the only streaming related topic that I submitted for and also got accepted, I guess. Like there's no other stream. If I search for stream, there's only 2 here, which are basically the same. Like it's just a different version of the same talk that I like with a different title. That's it. That's the only one I have on streaming, honestly. Okay, so I think at this point I just start building demos. and then I go to slides. And which means I'm probably done for today. What else can we do today? It's 9 p.m. I maybe have like 1 or 2 more hours before I should. Oh, you know what? Actually, I need to start packing. I still haven't started packing for tomorrow, so I need to start packing, and need to sleep early because my flight is like 8:30 a.m. So I need to like get up around 6:30 and then go for the airport. Thank you everyone for joining. This was a fun stream. Especially love all the help that the chat could provide me. All the help is helpful, and I'm running out of words to say, so I'm just gonna end. See you around. Yeah, see you tomorrow. If anyone else in chat is gonna be at Salt Lake City for Epic WebConf, tweet at me or send me a DM, and we're gonna hang out. Cool. Bye bye. And if not, I'll see you in a few more days when I start streaming here again.